This is something we started, this is our 4th year. It's called our Disruptive Innovation Award. And 4 years ago, we gave it to Clay Christensen, who was really one that I don't know if he invented that name or made it famous. And then the next year, we gave it to Cory Booker, who was supporting us and pushing things around for us in Newark. Last year, we gave it to Steve Perry, who's a very exciting educator trying to go around the country and make things happen. And this year, we're giving it to, I wonder if she knows, Elliot, Linda Darling Hammond. Let's give a hand. Surprise! She thought she was coming for dessert. So I will say a word or two about Linda and then turn it over to Elliot, and we got a cool award, and we'll listen to Linda. Because it's kind of interesting, as I was listening to Jeff and knowing our work and all on the ground, and then thinking about Linda coming up here, it's that other piece of the puzzle. We're on the ground, banging our heads, trying to do stuff, working with the kids, and we need support up here. We need people who are changing policy. We need people who have the access that we don't have to continue our work. And I don't know if many of you know, but Linda was head of the transition, education transition work for President Obama. And there was a little dinner at Bill Gates' house. I'll tell you what I took from his house. Oh, no, I can't show you that right now. But all the people who were the candidates were there. And it was just kind of an interesting thing. And as we know, Arnie Duncan got it. And as we often think how different our world would have been if Linda Darling Hammond was our Secretary of Education, you know. So, but she didn't stop her work. She's carrying on, and she'll tell you about some of the things she's doing. So you know she's got 12 books, 300 articles, runs 1 million different centers at Stanford, started a charter school also there. So it's very cool. Elliot and I have both known her for a long, long time. And the beauty for me is even as I started out as an educator, she was always open to us. So this was this big shot here at Stanford, and she'd always open her door because even though she's doing this policy work and the academic work, she has tremendous respect for us. So Elliot will follow with it, but I'm very, very proud to be able to give you this award and part of Big Picture. So clap for her again. We're saying how many times?
All right. So Brian, you're gonna
the first glorious
video
of the invasion fortification created for the first time in all history a garden of pure ideology where each worker may bloom secure from the pests of a contradictory thoughts. Unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1980.
Dr. Linda Darling Hammond, in honor of your commitment to equity, efforts to disrupt the status quo, and relentless work to transform education. Awarded January 22nd, 2015, Big Picture Learning. Now you got to know a little bit. The award, as objects have in them, is part of the story. And this hammer was handcrafted and handmade by a friend of mine. Most of you know I'm the hand guy around here. A lot of time, hand mind guy, heart guy. And John LaMonica had the last foundry in Chicago. And our students worked there. And he still makes us these. His family did foundry work and did a lot of the work on the big, tall buildings there. And, you know, you all know that expression. If you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. A lot of times people say that in education. And the funny thing is that if you're really a tool person and a hand person, hammers are hardly ever used to nail anything. So somebody who made that expression up didn't understand what a hammer really does and how many different hammers there really are, and there's hundreds of them. And it's the same thing with equity. And when you use a hammer, you have to use it in a lot of different kinds of ways. Multiple ways, lots and lots of ways that this thing performs for you. So that's the backstory behind the hammer and equity. And we hope you enjoy it and make something with it, figuratively and literally. So thank you very much for all you've done for all of us.
All right. Well, I love getting a Disruption Award. I think that is like the coolest thing ever. And I love the Met. So I'm so honored to get this award from two people that I have been admiring for many, many years. Some of the most disruptive, persevering, creative, unstoppable people, all of you who are involved in the Met. You know, it's an idea that many would have said was unscalable, right? This idea that head and hand and heart and disrupting all of the regularities of schooling, as Seymour Saracen put it, and really allowing kids to be involved in empowering, authentic work. I love the fact that Jeff Duncan Andrade was really bringing us back around to the heart, love, empathy, aspects of this work that are so off the table in policy discussions, which is the world that I spend a lot of my time in. And so I admire this work. I'm thrilled that it has been expanding. I know it's hard everywhere. My current mission, I used to be a high school English teacher. I taught in big warehouse, factory model high schools in places like Camden, New Jersey, and Philly. Tried to create those little oases where authentic work could go on for my kids and my classroom, and went back to school to get involved in policy because I realized that unless you can do this on a whole school basis and then on a whole district basis and then on a whole state and national basis, we're always going to be pushing the rock up the hill. You know, the Sisyphus experience that I know many of you have in the various places where you are doing this work. And you're succeeding at the work, thankfully, and your kids are succeeding because of that work, but it's very hard for other people in other schools to access these practices given the context that they are often in. And so I think I want to just say a word. I hope that will be positively inspiring and hopeful for those of you who are doing this work in schools about what's happening in policy. We have been in a misguided, test-based, test and punishment-based, sanctions-oriented system for a good 15 years. And yet, people have managed to persevere, which is remarkable and really important. We've been in a system where now more kids in the United States in public schools, most children live in poverty. Most U.S. public school children, so we're not talking about a small number, where twice as many kids are homeless today as were homeless a decade ago, where we've been neglecting the welfare of our children. And where we've had a line of policy discussion which has sort of argued that if you have testing, you have equity. And people have ended up kind of buying that idea that, oh, you need testing for equity, not resources, not equalizing the dollars, the counselors, the teachers, the curriculum. I mean, that's all been put aside for a very long time, and that is changing now. And that's the good news that we have in front of us. the conversation that I'm engaged in now with others around a potential new Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the work that we are doing here in California, which I think is going to be spreading to other states, is turning that on its head. We have, in this state, a new funding formula which gives more money to kids based on their needs, based on English learners, poverty students, kids in foster care. We have brought 40% more money into the system over the last few years. It's not perfect yet, but we have a long way to go, but we're on the right path. We're talking about accountability in a whole new way. Accountability does not equal testing. You know, what parent says, gee, I want you as a school to be accountable to me and give my kid a lot of tests, please, and I'll be happy. That's not accountability, but even though that's what we've come to believe. Accountability, if you think about what parents want, is an empowering, meaningful learning agenda, which is exciting and engaging to kids and which connects them to their world in the home, in the community, and in the world beyond, and prepares them for life in the 21st century, which is going to be changeable and where adaptability and flexibility and thinking are going to be critical. They want professionals who are prepared to do that work well and to be responsive to their individual kids. So they want professional capacity along with that meaningful learning. And they want resource accountability. They want enough resources there to make that job be possible. And that's how we're redefining accountability. It's around meaningful learning. It's around resource accountability. It's around professional capacity. And then we will have the schools and the support for your schools and others like them that we need to have. And so in this state, we've eliminated 2/3 of the standardized tests that were there just a few years ago, because they were holding the curriculum in gridlock around the image of a curriculum that was invented in 1892 by the Committee of 10, 10 old white men who said, here's what it will be. And we went further and just turned it all into multiple choice, so it had no meaning beyond picking one answer out of 5. We're moving beyond that. There are a variety of views about what the new standards will be across the country, but the notions of organizing curriculum around higher order thinking skills, connecting head and hand and heart, linked learning is an initiative in California that has $250 million to get schools connected to the world beyond them. That's meaningful learning. Performance assessments, portfolios, where kids are really doing serious work to graduate. That's what we're looking at for the future. Resource accountability, put the money where the kids' needs are, organize around meaningful learning, and then invest in the capacity of educators to do that work well. In every possible way, that is, before people enter, as they're in the profession, around the kind of work that Jeff was talking about that is meaningful and that is allowing educators to do the job that is necessary to connect to the kids who are in our classrooms. There's a whole nother agenda, and that, by the way, is now percolating in Washington. These ideas are on the docket in ESEA conversations. Other states are looking at California and saying, oh, they're just doing what they think is right instead of what somebody else is telling them to do. Maybe we should try that also. There is a moment where we can turn the tide towards pressing the system to be operating on behalf of true learning rather than around the demands of bureaucracies. So I want you to be hopeful about that and be engaged, because it's going to take a lot of work to get this kind of thing to happen. Some of you are in states where that hasn't begun to happen yet, but it helps to know that it can and to relate and connect to those who are in other places where this work is going on. We look abroad. I'm delighted to learn this morning that the Met is now in all these other countries as well, and I think we can learn from those experiences in our own work in the States. The next generation of this work is going to rely on the people who are doing the most child-centered, innovative work in schools, connecting to the people who are doing the most aggravating disruptive work in the policy community. And I hope that we will find ways to push that along together. I thank you for the work you're doing. I want to leave you with a little story that I think some of us will empathize with. In the work that we do, it's very easy to get discouraged because it always feels like 2 steps forward and 1 or 2 steps back as we are, undertaking these issues. And it's easy to get discouraged, but there are in the community lots of reasons to be able to move forward. In one such case, where a school reformer was becoming discouraged, his friends took him to get extra help. And they tried a lot of things that didn't work, including therapy and professional development and a drive-by workshop that didn't work. They finally decided to take him to a seance. And they wanted to connect to a higher power, and they got around the table and communicated with the other side and were thrilled ultimately to hear the voice of John Dewey. And they said, "Oh, Mr. Dewey, what shall we do to succeed in making all of our schools temples of learning? Successful for all of our kids." And there was a long pause at the other end of the line. And finally, the voice of John Dewey said, "Well, it depends on whether you want to do it the ordinary way or the miraculous way." And the guy said, "I'm kind of an ordinary guy. What's the ordinary way?" And Dewey said, "Well, the ordinary way would be to wait for legions of angels to descend upon the schools and turn them into these temples of learning." And the guys who were there said, "I'm not sure that's going to happen. What's the miraculous way?" And Dewey said, "The miraculous way would be for the people to do it themselves." And that's what each and every one of you are doing. And my hat is off to you. I honor you, and I thank you. I have a lot of uses for this. I'm going to take it with me to Sacramento. And the first thing I'm going to do is smash the rest of the testing system.